Hi there, thanks for joining me for another episode of Mr. Ed Makes, and in this episode we're going to be doing some Halloween crafts. A skull ghost. So these little skulls, you can pick these up at the pound store, sometimes your Halloween store when it comes around, and it's usually starting about now when there's not a pandemic. You pick those up. I think you can get them online too. They're handy to have around because you can do like dozens of crafts. These little electric candles are really handy to have too. This is one that twists in the back. They have some that's a little larger, looks like a real candle, and it has a switch at the bottom. Either of those will work for this one. I like the one I showed you because it's really small profile and it fits up in the ghost really well. So you're going to need some basic tools there. I have some crepe paper and some tissue paper. You can use either of those. And I have an opaque plastic bag and then a really thin see-through plastic bag. So I'm going to start with that see-through plastic bag, and we're just going to cut that into strips. And if there's writing on the bag, kind of cut in a way that will follow the writing, so you can get rid of that piece and keep most of the rest of it, because when you do this, the writing will show up. You don't want that effect. So pick the pieces that don't have the writing and kind of straighten those out, pull all the pieces apart, and you're going to have these little strips of plastic. I have a video here that will show you, I think, is it on here? Yeah, I think it is on here. That will show you how to do this. So click that thing up there once I remember I have that. So you're just going around and making like a mummy of the skull head, but it's like clear plastic instead of gauze. So just kind of like do a wrap, like it has a head injury and you're a nurse and you're trying to fix that. So once you get that wrapped around, grab a heat gun and put some good amount of heat on there so it'll shrink up, and it will kind of tear and turn into these like strands, and that's cool because it's a great effect. We're going to go over it again if you didn't get the achieve the complete effect that you want. And what that effect is you want it to look like skin. So we're going to need some eye holes. So I poke a little starter hole there, and when you heat it up, it stretches open, and it does the same thing for the nose and the mouth. Once you get some good plastic melted on there, see how creepy and gross that looks? That's your ghost skull head, and then it's just a matter of putting the rest of the pieces on there. The first piece to go on there is the light, and you have to figure out where you're going to put that light in there. I want the beam, if you will, of the light to shine at the face part, mostly the eyes and nose if I can. And it seems to be the way the skull is structured, this one, that's kind of the best place to put it. Plus, you want it to be hidden in like the back part of the ghost, so it doesn't look like it's a skull with a light attached to it. So in order to get the light inside there, I've got to create a hole because there isn't one. And I use a little torch, be careful here, and a screwdriver, and just warm that up. Get it pretty hot, and it should press through. And if you can't get it to fit at first, just work at a little bit. Warm that end. You don't want it like glowing hot because it'll burst into flames, but you just want it warm so it'll melt the plastic and kind of stretch it out of the way. And I want a snug, really snug fit. And I'm kind of, when I go in, I don't want a thick rim of plastic because then that's going to keep the bulb part outside of the skull more. You want it to be in there as far as it'll go. So that works pretty good. There's a lot of light coming around the neck part, but that's okay. I think that's going to work because I have this next part here is going to help kind of hide that and set off the glowing so that it looks like it's inside the ghost. So you start with some crepe paper, or you can just use tissue paper for this, and you're going to make a strip of that and kind of triple it up. So fold it a third over and then fold that over the rest of the way, and it's going to make kind of a pile of it. And then we're going to zigzag this back and forth, and we're going to make those collars like I don't know, 16th, 15th, 16th century collars that went around like dukes and counts and stuff. Maybe it was to keep people from being stabbed in the throat immediately. Maybe it's like to protect them from that. I don't know. It seemed like a really audacious fashion choice, but When I think of old-timey ghosts, that's what I think of, them having these weird collars on there. So I fold up a few pieces of that so that I can get a nice arrangement to go around the neck of this ghost. Kind of like that there. It doesn't have to be clean because, I mean, this ghost has been through it. It might have had an attempt on its life, and that kind of ruffled its neck things. So I glued those on with hot glue, and you want to be careful when you put the hot glue on the light, because it's connected to the chin, the necky chin part, and the light. But the light screws, the bottom screws on and off, so you have to make sure not to glue that screw part together so that it doesn't turn anymore. So that's a caution there. So the next step is the body part. So there's this kind of this technique that you can do, or I can do, I guess. I was going to say I can do. You can do it too. Kind of stretch this out. You want really wide sheets. And I pulled the ends because I don't want it to look squared off at the bottom. I kind of want it to look like leaf-like or tentacle-like. So once I get those positioned around the head, I want this to look kind of like hair at the top and then body parts at the bottom. So dual purpose. So I kind of want to start the tearing so it'll go back and it'll crinkle up. That was my idea of trimming the edges with scissors there, to get it to not have a really sharp plasticky edge, to look like it's hair that's pulled back a little bit. So kind of score it, and as you heat it, where it's cut, it will pull away and create these kind of strip looking things. I had to put a lot of heat on there, and I kind of touched it with the hot end of the gun, which melted the plastic open and did what I needed to do. I just, from experience, I wouldn't recommend you do that unless you're really experienced with the heat gun and melting the plastic. See right here, if you put just the right amount of heat on it and the plastic can move around, it shrinks up and has this really gross kind of desiccated look. And that's what I'm going for the stuff that hangs down and looks like it could reach out and grab you. So that's going to go on the inside, and the light kind of, it shines through a little bit through the bottom part. So I think it's going to be lit up a little bit on the inside. And the opaque trash bag here, I want that to look like a robe or the garment that goes over, and it has to look shredded and looks like maybe the bottom part of it is still in the ephemeral world while the rest of it's trying to penetrate the real world. You know how ghosts are. We all know how ghosts are, right? So I shred the bottom of that so it looks like Elvira's skirt, or her little dress. She wore a little dress with the end shredded, wasn't it? Y'all know who Elvira is? Look it up. Open that up so all those little pieces are wispy and they move around in the air and they're all pulled apart and they look nice. You can see here now it's fringe now. So I'm going to kind of shape that into like a coat or a cape, and then wrap it around the neck foldy things. I wish I knew what they were. Anybody know what they are? Leave a comment. And then attach that with hot glue. And again, it's going to be a little bit tricky because this plastic is bunched up, so it's not just a matter of gluing down the top layer. You kind of have to glue in the bunch. It's difficult to explain, but if you try it a few times, just try it on something as practice, and you'll understand what I'm talking about, and then you'll know how to compensate and really to get all of those layers of plastic to connect and not pull away. So once I have that done, I'm getting it all fanned out and kind of seeing what's the best pose, how it looks all creepy. You can see the tentacly looking parts there. So I thought I could hang it from a string, but then I was like, you know what, maybe I could just make a stand out of some wire. So I took some heavy wire and made a stand, and it's so lightweight it just sets right on it. And if you put a little fan on it, or even if it's outside or on a porch near a window, it just takes a really light breeze to animate it. So in the dark, look at how creepy that is. And the color changing light is just great. And I have two of these. I actually have lots of different lights, and I thought of having one in the head and then maybe putting one underneath where the stand is, so that there's light blowing up or glowing up on it. And then as it's moving around, it's all flickering and everything. So here I went and grabbed the other light and I put that on there, and I have a little fan, and now you can get kind of an idea of what it would look like if you have this in your haunt. Isn't that cool? Just creepy. Love the shadows that it makes. So ominous. Let me know what you think about this craft, if you think it's something that you can do. I have a high degree of confidence in you. You can see it's really easy. There's not a lot of precision involved, so you don't have to have a lot of physical skill. It's just simply a matter of putting these pieces together, and if it looks like a wreck, that's great, because it just adds authenticity to the life and or death of this ghost. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you liked this, hit the like. If you want to see more like this, hit subscribe. There's a playlist with other crafts, and as always, until next time, take care.